I'm live. I am live here at Trubicars. I'm just seeing who's coming into our live. And we've got a couple people. Trubicars. Yeah, let's see where we at here. So I'm just going to wait for another body or two, and we're going to talk about driving to build your confidence. And so when you've got some questions, I'll be happy to answer your questions for you. And it's what I do, it's what I like to do. So I think it's a good distance. There's Druby cars. Here we are. And who am I? Well, I'll get to who I am in a minute, but we'll just want to get a few more people here. And beautiful day in the neighborhood. So kind of a nice end of summer day. Perfect day for a drive. Perfect day for a drive. And the more we have our confidence up, the more we can enjoy days like this behind the wheel. So, who am I? My name is Scott Marshall. I am the director of training for Trubicars. And just so you know, Trubicars is not a driving school. Nah, we're not a driving school, but we develop curriculum for hundreds of driving schools in Ontario. And all you have to do is go to trubicars.ca and you'll find out more about us. But we like to build confident drivers. And so the information we provide helps your confidence grow. And a confident driver can become a good driver. If you're a little tentative, you can start making more mistakes. And sometimes the mistakes will snowball just a little bit. So, welcome to the line. And if you do have questions, uh, send us your questions and we'll do our best. So, I mentioned I am Scott Marshall, and I've been involved as a professional in road safety for more than 35 years. And I had a full head of hair. Looking at some old photos last night, I had a lot of hair, and at one point, but I've done a lot of things in road safety over those years, including training thousands of people to become licensed drivers. And one of the thrilling parts is taking a student to their driving test and watching them from the beginning of their lessons to the end, watching their confidence grow. It's such an amazing experience for me as an instructor. I've also retrained many licensed drivers over the years, some who have not gained a lot of confidence and are doing some refresher lessons. So we're hoping that the same thing can happen with you. So if you have some questions, any questions about driving, I'm more than happy to answer those for you. And this is our first live here on YouTube. And I'm hoping we can get a few more people in the room and we'll be there. So I have a few lights above me here. And hopefully it won't reflect off my very large face too often. But one of the things about Trubicars is, and I will mention this a few times for those who are just coming into the room, is I mentioned we are not a driving school, but we've helped more than 150,000 people get their driver's license. It's kind of cool, really, in the short time that we've been in Canada. We are a Canadian company. So one of the things that we do is set you up with a very good driving school and a good instructor, someone that blends well with you, and so then we're good. So welcome to our first Trubicars live here on YouTube, and I'm happy to be here. So one of the things about being a confident driver, if you do have some questions, but one thing about being confident is confidence in your ability. And there's a difference between being confident, feeling confident, so you can tell people you're a confident driver. Well, if you really are a confident driver, you shouldn't have to tell people. They're going to see the actions that you've done. Um, they're going to be comfortable in the vehicle with you. You're not going to make them comment negatively. You're not going to make them feel uneasy or nervous as a passenger just because of the way you drive. So we want to be confident, but we also want to be smooth and safe. So if you're a good driver, you don't have to tell people. Now, one of the things I also did in the past was I was a judge on Canada's Worst Driver. You may have seen some of those shows that they're still on repeats on, I think, CTV and all their affiliates over the years. But I did the first three seasons, and some of those participants felt that they were confident, but their abilities were terrible. Other ones did not feel confident, but their driving wasn't that bad, but they just kept knocking themselves as a driver. So I worked with them, helped them improve as the time went on. So if you improved, if you haven't seen the show, if you improve, you get voted off the island, so to speak. You get to go home. And so it was a wonderful experience, and I did that for 3 years, and it was a blast, really. Especially as watching them improve so much and seeing their confidence grow, and even talking with them off camera and realizing that some of the information that I was able to share with them or our team was able to share wasn't just highlighting how bad they were. It was they wanted to go home. It was not a picnic doing that. And same thing for other drivers that I've worked with over the years. So I started in the 80s and training people how to drive. So, and retraining. So, kind of all over Canada too, not just here in Ontario. I've worked with instructors in many different provinces. I've worked with instructors in Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, um, Alberta, and British Columbia. I have gone to Manitoba and to Saskatchewan to retrain licensed drivers. So I've been across Canada doing this job of road safety. So, and I've seen different communities, larger communities, smaller communities. Um, in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, I was there, and if you've never been to Saskatchewan, it's as flat as people tell you. It's like you can watch your dog run away for 5 days. It's pretty flat. Um, but although it's not heavily populated compared to Ontario, there's still risks that we face. And if you have the right mindset, you can still become a safe driver. So if you do have some questions for me, I would like to answer them for you. And believing in yourself is the big part of being a confident driver. But where did you learn to drive? Like, not all driving schools are top notch. And for those who just came in, Trubicars is not a driving school. Trubicars develops curriculum for driving schools, and we pair up with the best driving schools. And so, what you can do if you're learning how to drive and you want to learn how to drive is you go to trubicars.ca and you type in your address, and it pairs you up with the driving schools. It shows you the driving schools in your area, and you can choose those driving schools. You can view those driving schools and make a decision based on what fits you. So it's really kind of cool to do that and not have to email everybody else. You can see it all. It's like a one-stop shop. So it's you tell them your needs. Tell them you want to become a confident, smooth driver. And if we are able to do something like that to help you at the beginning of your driving career, then that's something that is worth it. It really is worth it. And if you think about the cost of learning how to drive, it's endless because your life is more than $900. Your life is worth way more than that. So think about what you're going to get out. What's the end goal of driving lessons? It's not just to pass your driver's test. It is to become safe on the road and learning how to anticipate what's going on. So, welcome to our live, and I do have a knack for talking, but I like to listen as well. And if you do have a question, again, I'd like to answer it for you. And For those who have not were not here at a time, my name is Scott Marshall. I'm your congenial host for this live, our very first live on YouTube. And I've been in road safety professionally for more than 35 years. I've trained thousands of people to get their driver's license. I've retrained a gazillion number of people to who already are licensed but want to be better. And I've trained driving instructors for many, many years, like 30 years. So I've seen a lot on the road, and I was a judge on Canada's Worst Driver, uh, which makes me see a lot more. Sometimes every time I'm on the driving throughout the city, I think I see more candidates for Canada's Worst Driver. I kind of wonder that, but yeah. And my brother was saying just the other day that he wanted to nominate his wife, but it wouldn't be fair if I had to criticize my sister-in-law about her driving, and that would not be a good thing, especially during holidays and we have to see each other. But driving is a blast. Driving is a lot of fun. But if you feel a little bit nervous, what is it that makes you nervous? What causes this nervousness? Is it your own abilities? Is it the traffic around you? Is that what causes it? Is it the bad weather? It is middle of September and we are looking at winter coming up. I know I said the W word. I know. But, in a couple more months, chances are we're going to have that white fluffy stuff falling from the sky. So we want to make sure we're ready for that. And if you go to trubicars.ca and you check out the blog section, you will see articles that will help you with your driving choices to help your confidence grow. So Trubicars.ca also has podcasts. So I do a weekly podcast. Typically comes out on a Wednesday, and where we answer questions from listeners, people at random, and provide answers and solutions to what may confuse you or where no one else seems to know the answer. So that's what we do as well. So if you go to Trubicars, Ask the Expert podcast, you can find that on Spotify, Radio Canada, iHeartRadio, or iHeart Podcast, I guess it is. You can find it there. So just have to search in your browser for that and subscribe. It's a great, easy 10, 11 minutes on audio podcast. You can subscribe and you can listen. Right now, there are 16 episodes to help you become a better driver, to give you knowledge. I had a student that was going for their road test in a little while, and they'd finished all their driving lessons, and they were pretty good. They were fine, but they started asking random people advice on how to drive safely and smoothly to pass their driver's test. So they asked their letter carrier, asking someone who walks every day. No. Asked the auto mechanic that fixes her mom's car, and asked a total stranger. Like, this is what they told me afterwards. And they went for the driver's test and they did not pass because they took the advice of non-experts. So they contacted me and I did a couple of refresher lessons before their test and they passed. And one thing I did ask was, why did you ask someone who is not an expert? They didn't have an answer. So ask the experts. We do the research, we do the groundwork to make sure that we can give you the information that you need to pass. And passing your driver's test is a big part of your life, and it makes us, go that extra step now. Is what can I do? I have my driver's license, and I want that independence. I want that freedom to come and go as I please, as long as there's a vehicle available. But we want to make sure we can do it safely. And if you're sharing a vehicle with somebody else, you have to have a system that allows you to use their vehicle at the same time that it's available. So learning to drive can give that freedom. I remember when I learned how to drive, I went with a buddy. We took the course together, and they said our in-class teacher said, you could be a driving instructor in 2 years if you wanted to. I leaned over to my buddy and said, they couldn't pay me enough. Well, here I am, 35 and a half years later. I'm still doing this and I'm loving it. So driving gives you that freedom to come and go. It gives you the responsibility though as well. Any tips for winter driving? Question comes up. Winter driving is great. Now, so if you mentally prepare yourself for winter driving before the snow flies and the temperatures get cold, you'll be able to tackle it very easily. So here's the first thing: is first of all, make sure that you are mentally ready. If there's snow on the ground, first time you've ever driven in the snow, here's what I recommend you do: put your vehicle onto the street, stay out of the driveway, out of the parking lot, and with snow-covered road, no one else around, listen and press the gas just a little bit firm. You're going to listen and you're going to hear the wheels spin. You're going to realize just how quickly it takes for the wheels to start to spin. Then ease off the gas, stop, and do it again, but this time less harsh. So that way you know what it takes to get the vehicle in motion with a snow covered road. So it takes less pressure on the accelerator to get the vehicle in motion. You don't want harsh jabs. Then to brake, to stop the vehicle in winter conditions, you do something similar. You get it moving maybe about 20 kilometers an hour, 25K, no one around you. Listen and brake hard. Listen, if your vehicle has anti-lock brakes, and for the last 12 years, vehicles made in Canada have anti-lock brakes as a standard feature for the last 12 years. So if your vehicle's anti-lock brakes, you're going to hear that sound of the anti-lock brakes. Doesn't mean anything's broken. It just means it's trying to help stop. So that's what happens when you brake suddenly on a snow-covered road, even at a low speed. So then get moving again, 20, 25K, press the brake more gradually and continuously, and then you'll stop. So that way you're going to get an idea of what it feels like to accelerate and brake in snowy conditions. The other thing that you need to be aware of in winter conditions is time. You need more time to make your turn across the path of traffic, partly because your acceleration is more gradual, and the other part is that and for them to brake, it's going to take them longer. You don't want to take chances and try to go through quickly. So you need a larger gap when turning across the path of traffic. This also means you need more time to get to your destination. So if it's snow-covered roads and it normally takes you 15 minutes to reach your destination, you may want to allow 20 or 25 to get to your destination. If you don't need that much, no problem, you're early. Nothing wrong with that. But it's better than being late. It's also better than taking chances because you're running late. And some people will try to do that. Following distance is another big one. It's one of my pet peeves of people who follow too closely at any time of year. But in winter driving, if you're behind other vehicles, don't forget you want to use seconds, not car lengths. Car lengths is fine if you're parked, not while you're in motion. Okay. So your a safe following distance is 3 seconds. With snowy covered roads, why don't we add four, make it 4 or 5 seconds? That way you don't have to brake so harshly. If you're not the one owning the vehicle, talk to the vehicle owner in your family and convince them to have winter tires on the vehicle. Winter tires are for the season. Talked to somebody yesterday actually who called them snow tires. Okay, and a lot of people will call them snow tires, but if you think about it, they're actually good for the season, not just for the elements. So winter is the season. So your all seasons or summer tires, as some people call them, the summer tires, the summer not. They're good until the temperature gets 7 degrees, +7, not minus. So when the temperatures drop below 7 degrees Celsius, those all seasons, the rubber gets a lot harder and it's less flexible to grab the road. And whether it's snow covered or not, it's just harder to grip. It's like wearing dress shoes and trying to stop quickly on a hard surface. But if you had boots where the sole is more flexible and bigger gaps between, they're going to grip the road better. And some people will say, well, I can't afford winter tires. Here's the thing: if you think the math all the way through, if you're using your all season tires for 6 months out of the year and your winter tires for 6 months out of the year, that means your all season tires are going to last you twice as long, and then your winter tires as well. So I would typically put on, I'm checking the weather probably about a month's time. Around the Canadian Thanksgiving, I'm going to check the weather to see whether what the temperature's like. And I'll do that regularly. I'll look at the forecast. And when I see that it's consistently down below 7, then I'm going to switch over to my winter tires. And so quite often it's before Halloween. So I leave them on, even though it may not snow yet. It's just the temperature makes the rubber harder. I'll leave them on until I see the temperature is consistently above 7 degrees in the spring, which sometimes is around that Easter mark, right after March break. So that's why it's about 6 months. So we don't have 6 months of winter, despite what the groundhog says. We just have to take a look at the temperature. So you're allowing time, you're having winter tires, you're mentally preparing yourself. You know what? If it's that bad outside, don't drive. That's it, right? Um, if you have to, give yourself that extra time. But there was a time years ago I was asked by a television station to come into their studio and talk about why we shouldn't drive. It's kind of ironic. And I said to the producer on the phone, "So you want me to get in my car, drive to the station, and tell people we shouldn't be driving?" And there was a bit of silence on the line. And they said, "Yeah, okay, that doesn't make sense." So we did a video call instead. So yeah, it's kind of ironic. Don't do what I'm doing. So yeah, so those are the types of things about winter driving. You also want to make sure your vehicle is properly equipped. So this time of year, middle of September, 2 more weeks, it's October. Before there's a rush, start planning what can you have in your vehicle for winter driving. Small shovel's a good idea in case you get stuck. Check out your ice scraper and snow brush. I always keep a few extras. A lot of vehicles in my family, a lot of drivers in my family, and they break. So it's handy to know that if it breaks, there's a spare. You might have to deal with it later that day if it broke when you weren't at home. But the next day when I get home that day, I grab this one of the spare ones and put that in my car as well. So that's something to do. Now, as far as where you put your ice scraper, so sometimes it's these little things that helps our mentality of driving to improve. So if there's a lot of snow, like we're talking like a lot of snow, and it's on your hood, the roof of your vehicle, the trunk, and even stuck to the windows and the doors, put your scraper in the back seat on the floor. It's a lot easier to brush around the opening of the door, the back seat, and open your back door and grab your scraper and brush out, then try to clear a whole whack of snow off the trunk of your vehicle and then do it. If you have an SUV, that's not a problem because it's kind of like that. It's not going to stick and pile up, and you just put it in the back of your SUV. But if you have a sedan or a coupe type of vehicle, like a 4 door or 2 door, that's not a hatch, then keep it on the floor. So that's for the winter driving, and I think as we get closer to that season where things are gonna stick with us a little bit more, I'll be able to offer more tips, and maybe because you've experienced driving, in the winter, a little bit more. So for those who may have come in a little bit late to our live, thank you for joining us. My name is Scott Marshall. I'm Director of Training for Trubicars. Hey, if you haven't visited trubicars.ca, go give it a visit. We're not a driving school, but we have helped over 150,000 people get their driver's license. You go to Trubicars, you put in your pickup address, gives you driving schools that are close to you. You can choose the schools, you can detail the instructor, the vehicle, um, the you can check out the hours that they work and do lessons, and then you can help them. Now we pair up with the top driving schools, so that's one of the things. So we kind of done our the research for you. So Trubicars is not a driving school, but we help you get your driver's license. There's even practice tests on our website, so you should go visit our website at trubicars.ca. I've been involved in road safety as a professional for more than 35 years. I've done a whole whack of stuff. If you've seen our social media, you've seen my face many times because I like to drive, and almost every day when you're out driving, you're going to find people that are doing things just a little bit weird. So, yeah, I was out on the Sunday, and I'm on an expressway, and there's a split. You can exit to the right or continue straight. And a driver was going straight, and they decided they wanted to exit at the last moment, and they drove through and under and up a ditch. Not the best plan of attack. So looking ahead helps you plan where you want to go. I included that on our weekly podcast. I talked about that. And you should go visit our podcast, which is Trubicars Ask the Expert. You can find that on Spotify, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, a lot of different. Just search it and you'll find it. And then subscribe and listen to it. They're like 10, 11 minutes. They're all audio podcasts. You don't have to watch it, you can listen. But they're very informative. People ask questions and I answer, kind of like today. And if you like what you're hearing today, if you have some questions, please ask the questions. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. And give us some likes too. We like likes. Likes are likable. Like, yeah. I was training someone to be a driving instructor, and they said the word like so often, probably 4 or 5 times a sentence. So, like, I want to like be like driving like instructor, like, and that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's pretty close. So I wrote the word like, drew a circle around it, and put a line through it to get her the idea that we want to stop using the word in a non-meaning. I like things. I don't like things. I don't like things. But I like driving, and driving is an awesome thing. We want your confidence to build up. So one of the things that's going to happen is probably in another few weeks is leaves are going to start changing color. I know I said it, but it's middle of September, and it's really nice when the leaves change. It's like when you go certain areas, it's quite picturesque. But the leaves are going to be on the ground. And anytime that you have something that goes between your tires and the road surface, it causes a lack of friction. That lack of friction causes a lack of traction. So if you see a lot of leaves in the area and you know you have to be braking by looking ahead, you see a stop sign up ahead, start slowing down early. Less chance that you're going to slide or your anti-lock brakes activate. Anti-lock brakes doesn't always stop you as quick as you think, but what it does is it gives you the ability to steer while braking. So if you know that the conditions are not ideal to give you the traction that you need, start adjusting early. That's where our confidence comes in. That way, after you've done something that kept that vehicle under control in a non-normal situation, feel good about what you just did. Don't shrug it off. Don't say, well, whatever. No, give yourself a little pat on the back, not physically because you're driving, and feel good about what you've done and realize that you controlled the vehicle. But also keep in mind that the heavier the vehicle, the longer it's going to take to stop. So if you've got a full load of passengers, as opposed to just you in the vehicle, brake a little bit early too, especially again in conditions that are not ideal. This morning, there was frost on, or not frost, there was dew on windows of vehicles in my neighborhood. So I would always keep a squeegee in my car and squeegee the windows to get a job at a gas station when I retire. I don't know. I'm good at that. Or a squeegee kid. But make sure you have clear visibility. Right? So if you have the tools in your vehicle to help you, and it's not just you and your hands and your eyes and your feet, it's about what else can you have to make it a safer way of driving. Some people will roll the windows down and back up, try to clear off the windows. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you have to be able to see clearly. And that's what happens when we get colder temperatures overnight, and then the warmer air does cause that moisture. Is going to cause um, the morning dew on your vehicle and your windows. So if you've got more questions, I'd love to hear them. Again, my name is Scott Marshall. I'm Director of Training for Trubicars, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions while we're still here doing our very first live. And if you haven't visited trubicars.ca, you should. The website, we're changing the website. It looks pretty nifty. And a whole lot of information that you can search out and find. You're going to love it, actually. And even if you're a licensed driver, if you have the idea that you want to upgrade and change a license, maybe you want to get your motorcycle license or you want to get your commercial license, come visit us and you'll see some information to help you with that journey of being licensed in those categories. Or maybe you're a G2 driver, getting prepared for your G test. Something that can easily happen, and we want to help you with that. So, but again, we're not a driving school. We're not. We are those that help the driving schools, and we help you too. That's what we do. So, and we are across Canada. We are Canadian. So we dealt a little bit with winter driving as well, and I have a question, and this is whether you want to answer this question or just it's a rhetorical. But who is responsible for the maintenance of the vehicle? The driver, or is it the owner of the vehicle? The answer is both. The reason it's both, even if you're not the vehicle owner, if you're driving the vehicle on a regular basis and there's something wrong, you can hear a sound that isn't normal or it acts different when you're driving, but the person who owns the vehicle doesn't drive that vehicle very much or hasn't in a while, you need to tell them. They're the vehicle owner, yes, good chance they're probably going to pay for it. But if you don't tell them there's something wrong, they won't know. And maybe it could escalate and make it more difficult for you to drive that vehicle and drive safely. So it's the driver and the owner that are responsible for the vehicle maintenance. Not both to pay for it necessarily, but at least to work together as a team. And I think that would be very helpful if you're able to do that. I have 4 kids, they all drive. I have 2 that still drive family vehicles, 2 have their own vehicle. And all through their years of driving the family vehicle, I kept trying to stress to them, you have to tell me early. My oldest didn't. Sorry, didn't mean to throw you under the bus. And it cost a little bit more to have some things repaired because I didn't drive that vehicle. I drove my instructor vehicle. So it could save money for you and your family or your vehicle owner just by communicating with them a little bit in advance. Right? So why do you want to drive it? Is it for this freedom? Is it for saving time? Is it because you want to and no other reason other than that? Well, whatever it is you do, my dad always said, whatever you do, do it right. And words that always stuck with me from the moment I was young until now, still. And it's important that because our actions can affect ourselves as well as other people. So what you do behind the wheel, that's your job. So I did a CBC interview a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and the reporter asked me the question, and as one of my answers was, um, driving is your job. Doesn't matter where you work. Doesn't matter if it's in an office, a factory. It doesn't matter where it is. That while you're driving, that's your job until you get to your paid job. So put everything else away and focus just on your driving and deal with the work politics when you get to work. Deal with the home politics when you get home. So thanks for joining us here in our live for Trubicars. And a little bit about Trubicars. We are not a driving school, but we assist and build curriculum for driving schools. And we pair up the driving schools, the best driving schools, with our curriculum. So go to trubicars.ca, put in your address, and you can find a driving school that suits you the most. And that's kind of what we do. And visit our website too, because we have a lot of other things there. We have a blog, we have a podcast. You'll see some quotes. You'll see a lot of good information. And it's not just about cars; it's also about like motorcycles and commercial vehicles. So we're here to help all of those as much as possible be successful in their life. Right? That's what we want to do, and we do it well. We do it well. But you should also check out our social media if you haven't seen that yet. In other than here on YouTube, but TikTok, and Instagram, Facebook. Give us a follow, and you'll be up to date with all the things that we're doing. Sometimes you're going to see my mug. Other times you might hear my voice, but it's good information, and it's interesting. We can find drivers doing things that are a little bit unusual that I can capture on video. It's a kind of a lesson. Yet, yeah, it does happen. And I had that knack training students that I would say something and that it might happen. And every now and then it would happen. And my student would look at me like, how did you know? I said, well, experience. I can like predict certain situations. So, and that's what we're able to do by showing you visual examples and also what to do. So there's also examples of that. Here's how to do a certain maneuver. Here's how to do a lane change, a left turn, right turn, whatever. Freeway merging, which is a big part, something you can't practice with a G1 license unless you're with a licensed driving instructor. And if you take professional lessons, you will have the opportunity to be on the expressway. We're going to stay on just for a few more moments. If you do have a question, we'd love to hear from you. And my name is Scott Marshall. I'm Director of Training for Trubicars. And we are not a driving school, but we help driving schools. And we help people hook up with driving schools to get the most out of their driver training lessons. And it's really a plus. We don't make any money from you, meaning that you don't pay us. You pay the driving school. So we're here for you. Uh, we we work for the driving schools by giving them top-notch um, curriculum, and we pair with, like I said, the best schools to help you learn the best ways to drive, and it's what we enjoy doing, and it's what I enjoy doing. I live and breathe driving. People send me photos. Just before we started, someone had sent me photos of an older vehicle that he fixed up that I've known him for probably 20 years through the road safety environment. And it's nice to see those types of things. Um, it's kind of cool. And I came across, I was out in public and someone was walking by and he stopped and he said, and this is also on our social media, the story. And he asked, he said, "Are you Scott Marshall?" And I said, "I am." He said, "You taught me to drive like 30 years ago." So he said I didn't change much, but I think I did. Yeah, I know I did. But he remembered me. I wasn't wearing a name tag. I didn't have anything on that said I was in road safety, driver training. So it's kind of a cool feeling when you work with people over the years and they do remember you. So I hope you remember this. I hope you come back and visit us again. Please check us out on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and give us a follow. Let us know that you're there and talk with us, and we'll be happy to talk with you about your journey of becoming a safe, confident driver. So, with that, I'm going to say, see you later, drive safe, and look forward to winter driving.